Harry's actually up to in America. He's been labelled a glorified house husband by insiders.
Every time I see a photo of you, you're holding hands, you're kissing, you are
disappointed and disillusioned with his life in America. Rejected by Hollywood. Nothing.
What if the one man who spent years defending his marriage has finally decided to say what he really thinks? For a long time, the world believed the story was simple. Prince Harry chose love over royalty. He walked away from the palace, the traditions, the power, and even the family he grew up in, all for one person, Meghan Markle. That was the fairy tale everyone was sold. But what if that fairy tale has been hiding a completely different reality? Because something strange has started happening lately. Subtle at first, almost invisible. A pause during interviews. A look in Harry's eyes that wasn't there before. A moment where his words suddenly didn't match the carefully crafted image the world had been shown. And then it happened. One comment. One unexpected sentence.
No wonder Prince Harry is so loyal to Meghan Markle. She has made 3 important sacrifices that no one else could make.
One moment that nobody in the room was prepared for. Within hours, the clip exploded across the internet. Millions of views. Endless speculation. Comment sections going absolutely wild. People replaying the moment again and again, asking the same question. Did Prince Harry just reveal the truth about Meghan Markle? Because according to insiders, what happened next behind closed doors was even more explosive than the comment itself. Arguments, panic, damage control, and a secret that was never supposed to reach the public. So what exactly did Harry say that left the world completely stunned? And why are people now asking if the royal love story was never what it seemed to be?
Over their good work and try and make his brother and his brother's wife, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, look bad.
The internet didn't need long to start connecting the dots. Because the moment that clip surfaced, people immediately began asking a question that had been quietly floating around for months, maybe even years. Was Prince Harry actually happy? For a long time, nobody dared to ask that out loud. The narrative had already been written and repeated so many times that it almost felt untouchable. Harry was the devoted husband. The man who walked away from royal privilege to protect the woman he loved, Meghan Markle. End of story. Except stories that look perfect from the outside sometimes hide the messiest truths behind closed doors. And people who have been watching closely say the signs were there all along. It started with little things. Small moments that didn't quite fit the image the world had been shown. Interviews where Harry seemed strangely quiet. Public appearances where his energy looked different. Not angry, not hostile. Just distant. Like someone whose mind was somewhere else entirely. At first, most people brushed it off. Life in the spotlight is exhausting. Anyone would look drained under that kind of pressure. Cameras everywhere. Headlines every morning. Critics waiting for the next mistake. Of course he looked tired. But then something interesting began happening. Body language experts started analyzing footage from recent events. And what they noticed raised eyebrows across the internet. In several appearances, Harry seemed noticeably withdrawn while Meghan dominated the conversation. When reporters asked questions, she often answered first. When cameras turned toward them, Harry sometimes looked like he was waiting for cues. Now, on its own, that might not mean much. Every couple has different dynamics. Some people are simply more comfortable in front of cameras than others. But then the whispers started coming from inside their own social circles in California. According to several insiders, life behind the glamorous Montecito mansion walls hasn't been quite as picture-perfect as it looks on magazine covers. Friends who used to see the couple regularly reportedly began noticing tension during private gatherings. Not explosive fights. Nothing dramatic enough to leak publicly. Just awkward moments. Long silences. And the subtle feeling that the two of them weren't always moving in the same direction anymore. One former associate described it in a way that caught a lot of attention online. He used to walk into a room and instantly light it up, the source claimed. But lately, he sometimes looks like someone who's trying to remember why he walked into the room in the first place. That comment spread fast. Because if there's one thing people have always associated with Harry, it's energy. Even during his royal years, he had a reputation for being the rebellious one. The prince who joked with soldiers. The royal who laughed too loud and didn't always follow the script. But recently, something about him seemed quieter. And according to people who claim to have seen the shift up close, the biggest source of tension wasn't public criticism. It was direction. You see, when Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal life, they didn't just disappear into private living. They stepped into something entirely new, a media empire in the making. Documentaries, podcasts, streaming deals, speaking engagements, brand partnerships. The plan was ambitious, and at first, it looked like it might work. But as time went on, the pressure to keep producing headlines, projects, and attention only grew stronger. Hollywood is a place that moves fast, and staying relevant requires constant momentum. That's where insiders say the difference between Harry and Meghan started becoming impossible to ignore. Meghan reportedly thrived in that environment. Cameras, strategy meetings, public appearances, the world of branding and storytelling was familiar territory for her. Harry, on the other hand, seemed less comfortable with the non-stop spotlight. Friends say he began talking more about wanting something simpler. More privacy, more time away from media cycles, more space to focus on the causes he cared about rather than constantly promoting the next project. But slowing down wasn't exactly part of the Hollywood playbook. And as the months passed, the gap between those two visions reportedly grew wider. One person close to the situation described it bluntly. Meghan was building a platform, they said. Harry was trying to escape one. That tension stayed mostly hidden from the public. Carefully managed appearances continued. Smiles for the cameras. Carefully worded interviews. Until that moment at the Wellness Summit. Because when Harry paused after being asked whether he had ever lost himself in love, and then quietly said those words about freedom feeling like a cage, suddenly the internet began looking at everything differently. And what they started seeing raised even more questions than answers. And once that clip started circulating, the internet did what it always does best. It went into full detective mode. Within hours, people weren't just talking about the comment anymore. They were digging through old interviews, replaying public appearances, and analyzing every small interaction between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle like it was a hidden code waiting to be cracked. TikTok analysts slowed down videos frame by frame. YouTube channels started uploading breakdowns titled things like "The moment Harry realized something was wrong." Even body language experts jumped into the conversation, pointing out moments where Harry appeared tense or strangely distant during events where the couple was supposed to look perfectly united. And the more people looked, the more uncomfortable questions started popping up. Why had Harry gradually stopped attending certain Hollywood gatherings? Why had he begun reconnecting with people from a completely different part of his life? Former military friends, old advisors, people who knew him long before California ever entered the picture. According to several insiders, those reconnect irons weren't random. They were intentional. One source claimed Harry had been quietly reaching out to people he trusted from his army days, arranging small private meetups far away from cameras or celebrity circles. No press. No publicity. Just conversations with people who remembered who he was before everything became complicated. And during one of those gatherings in Santa Barbara, something happened that insiders say left everyone in the room deeply concerned. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't an argument. It was a moment of honesty. Witnesses claim Harry became visibly emotional while speaking with a group of veterans about identity and purpose. At one point, according to someone who was there, he said something that immediately silenced the entire room. "I don't think people realize how easy it is to lose yourself," he reportedly said. "Especially when you're trying to be the person everyone expects you to be." The room went quiet, because for the people sitting there, people who had served beside him years earlier, that didn't sound like the same carefree prince they remembered. It sounded like someone who had been carrying a lot longer than anyone realized. But while Harry was quietly reconnecting with old parts of his life, something very different was reportedly unfolding back at home. Sources close to the couple say Meghan's team went into full damage control mode the moment the viral clip began spreading. Phones started ringing. Advisors were contacted. Public relations strategists began scrambling to contain the narrative before it spiraled even further. Articles suddenly appeared framing Harry's comments as misunderstood. Some suggested he was simply speaking philosophically about life changes. Others implied he had been taken out of context. But here's the problem with trying to control a viral moment in 2026. Once millions of people have already seen the clip with their own eyes, it's almost impossible to convince them they imagined what they heard. And the internet wasn't buying the explanation. Comment sections exploded with speculation. Some viewers believed Harry had accidentally revealed deeper frustration inside the marriage. Others argued the entire moment was being blown wildly out of proportion. But nearly everyone agreed on one thing. Something about the situation suddenly felt different. Because for years, Harry had been the one person who never cracked publicly. No matter how brutal the headlines got, no matter how intense the criticism became, he always defended the narrative. Always. Until now. And behind the scenes, insiders say the pressure from that one sentence, "Freedom can look like a cage," was about to trigger the most explosive confrontation the couple had faced since leaving royal life. A confrontation that would reportedly end with raised voices, slammed doors, and 6 words from Harry that nobody expected to hear. What happened next, according to people familiar with the situation, wasn't a quiet disagreement. It wasn't the kind of calm, carefully worded conversation public figures usually have when something goes wrong. It was a confrontation. And it reportedly started the moment Prince Harry walked through the doors of their Montecito home. By that point, the clip from the Wellness Summit had already gone nuclear online. Millions of views. Endless commentary. Headlines everywhere dissecting that one sentence about freedom feeling like a cage. Inside the house, sources say Meghan Markle had already seen everything. And she was not happy. Phones had been ringing all afternoon. Advisors were scrambling to contain the narrative. Articles were already appearing trying to soften the meaning of Harry's words. But the damage had been done. The internet had made up its mind that something deeper had slipped through the cracks. So when Harry walked in, the tension was already sitting in the room waiting for him. According to insiders, Meghan confronted him immediately. No small talk. No easing into the conversation. Just one direct question. "What were you thinking?" Sources claim the argument escalated quickly. Meghan reportedly accused him of handing critics the exact storyline they had been trying to avoid for years, the idea that their relationship was somehow controlling or one-sided. To her, that one comment had just given every critic, every tabloid, and every skeptical viewer fresh ammunition. And she made that clear. One person familiar with the confrontation says Meghan told him bluntly that he had made her look manipulative in front of the entire world. That he had undermined everything they had built since leaving the royal family. For a moment, the room went quiet. Because for years, whenever conflict appeared, Harry had always been the one to smooth things over. The one to apologize. The one who stepped back to keep the peace. But this time, according to those same sources, something different happened. Harry didn't back down. He didn't apologize. He didn't try to reframe the moment or soften the impact of what he had said. Instead, witnesses claim he responded with a calmness that caught Meghan completely off guard. 6 simple words. "I didn't lie about how I feel." The room reportedly went silent. Because for the first time in a long time, Harry wasn't speaking as the supportive husband protecting a shared narrative. He was speaking as someone describing his own reality. And that subtle shift carried enormous weight. Insiders say Meghan left the room shortly after, ending the argument abruptly. No resolution. No compromise. Just silence hanging in the air. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Instead of retreating after the explosion, Harry's behavior in the weeks that followed became even more surprising. He started pulling away from the Hollywood social circuit almost entirely. Invitations to celebrity events reportedly went unanswered. Calls from industry contacts slowed down. Instead, Harry began spending more time with people from a completely different chapter of his life, former military colleagues, longtime friends from the UK, and advisors who had known him before any of the California spotlight existed. To some observers, it looked like something deeper was happening. Not a public meltdown, not a dramatic split, but something quieter, and possibly even more significant. Because people close to him say Harry had started working on something in private. A personal project. Something reflective. Something deeply personal. A written exploration of identity, purpose, and the strange experience of building a life that eventually stops feeling like your own. And according to those familiar with the project, one detail has everyone talking. It isn't a joint story. It's entirely his. No shared narrative. No coordinated messaging. Just Harry's perspective. If that project ever becomes public, insiders say it could completely reshape how the world understands everything that's happened since he and Meghan stepped away from royal life. Which raises one very uncomfortable question. What exactly is Prince Harry preparing to reveal next? And now the question everyone is asking is simple. What happens next? Because when you step back and look at the bigger picture, something about this entire situation feels different. For years, Prince Harry was the one person who never wavered publicly. No matter how intense the headlines became, no matter how loud the criticism around Meghan Markle grew, Harry stayed locked into the same role. The defender, the protector, the man who never broke the script. But now the script suddenly looks shaky. That one comment about freedom feeling like a cage may have sounded small at first. Just a few words spoken during a quiet conversation. But sometimes the smallest sentences reveal the biggest truths. And the fact that the internet reacted the way it did tells you something important. People felt like they saw something real. Was it a moment of honesty that slipped out unexpectedly? Or was it the first sign that Harry is finally starting to tell his side of the story after years of staying silent? Because if the rumors about that private project are even partially true, the world might be about to hear a version of events we've never heard before. And that could change everything. So here's what we want to know from you. Do you think Harry's comment was just a misunderstood moment taken out of context? Or do you believe it revealed something deeper about what's really happening behind the scenes? Is this simply another internet storm that will disappear in a few weeks, or the beginning of a much bigger shift in the story everyone thought they understood? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this conversation is only getting started. And if you want more deep dives into the stories nobody else is connecting the dots on, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Because if this situation develops any further, you already know we'll be the first place breaking it down.